Hi everyone, my name is Meg Lewis. I am the International Marketing Chair and a Public Information Officer in my day job. We are going to talk to you today about creating powerful graphics. This is something that we see every day and we are bombarded by images on a regular basis. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how we can more effectively use those visuals to tell our story. So as I said earlier, my name is Meg Lewis and I am the Optimus International Marketing Committee Chair. I am a Public Information Officer for the 5th largest city in the state of Missouri, Independence. And over the about last 2 decades, I have watched social media grow from something we played with at college to what it is today. We're going to talk about a few of the key things to look for in this presentation. So one of the things that we're going to focus on today is how to create effective visuals, and I'm going to give you a few key design themes, guidelines, and reference tips to help you make more effective visuals. We're also going to talk about some free options that are available to you to utilize to create a variety of images for your club, district, or Optimus International in general. And then once we've looked at the basics of design and the free resources out there, we're going to talk about how to make it all work together. So the first thing is keep it simple. One of my first classes in journalism school was the basics of design, and I vividly remember sitting in our historic lecture hall listening to my professor giving us our first assignment. Draw a simple bathroom figure representing a concept. We know wherever we are how to find a restroom and which one we are supposed to go into because of the symbol on your left. Now, your visuals will not be this simple, but this should inspire you to think about what you really need to include in your messages. For those of you that are wondering, my symbol was that of a superhero. I still have this copy of that in my files from college. Alright, so we're going to start from the top down, and that's how your visuals should start as well. When we read, we start at the top of the page. Your visuals should not be any different. Your most important information should go at the top. If it is for an event, it should be the name of the event. If it is a quote, use the quote. And if it's not at the top of the page, it should be the biggest thing on your page. So we are all very familiar with the Mona Lisa. Now, all of us start looking at her face in that painting before we go to the background. Think of your visuals in much the same way. What do you want them to focus on first, and make that the biggest and most important piece? So, simplicity is very important, and keeping it simple is a vital first step. But font is something that all of us love to play with, and I am one of those people that love finding new fonts to use in my different visuals. But it's very, very important that your font and the visuals that it is used in are simple. So in the last 2 graphics, you've noticed that the fonts are very bare bones and the images behind them are very bare bones, and that's for a reason. Now, the image that you see on the left is a little bit harder for you to process in your brain because it has 5 different fonts in it, and that's going to confuse your brain and make it a little bit harder for the message to get across. So the general guideline in design is use no more than 3 fonts in the visual that you're creating, and if at all possible, try to not use those themed fonts unless they're for a purpose. Chiller is fun to use around Halloween, but outside of Halloween, it doesn't really need to be used. If you're using making a visual for a program for children, use a fun curved font, much like the font that you see in the Please. If you're using a visual for a more formal event, you're going to want to use a serif font or a font that has little legs on it, like Times New Roman. And it's a general rule of thumb to avoid using script fonts because they're hard to read unless they are very large, and not all generations can read them. Some schools are no longer teaching cursive, so it makes it harder for everybody to read the message that you're trying to get across. And while it is important to have a different font in your messages, the font must match the image or icon that you're trying to get across. So I have two very different images on this screen. The image on the left is very soothing and peaceful. The script writing is flowing and easy on the eyes. But when you look at the same message on the right, the image is far spookier and the font is more angular and almost skeletal in its presentation. Fonts are fun, and as I said earlier, I love learning about and finding new fonts to use, but they have their place and they can help you tell your message or take away from it. So be careful about what you use. Something that's also very important in design and goes back to the keep it simple is your eyes need a break. So also in the last few graphics you've seen, there's been what's called negative space around my fonts and images in there. And that allows your eyes to take a break between the different pieces of the graphic that you're looking at. So don't use too many colors. You don't have to fill the page with font. So I want you all to think about some of the favorite brands that you interact with on a regular basis. Now, Nike regularly uses negative space on their ads to lead you to the Nike swoosh. The Amazon Smile is much the same way. It's very commonly used on a one-color background with just the Amazon logo and the smile underneath it. Your design should have similar elements to that. Now, you're going to probably have some more information there for your events, or a quote or something to lead them to the website. But you still want to have that negative space in your ad so that the eye isn't overwhelmed and people can process the message that you're trying to tell them. Alright, so we've got over some of the basics of the designs that you're working on, the different graphics, the visuals that you're trying to develop. Now, there are different resources that you can use to create those. I use 3 of these regularly for my day job. Canva, Adobe Spark, and Flaticon have become my go-to resources when I need a graphic. Now, many of you are asking, when do you need a graphic? If you don't have a picture or a video for your social media post, you need to create a visual. If you're creating a Facebook event, you need a visual. These resources are free, at least for a trial, and can give you a basic place to start because many of them have templates and sizes already created for you and can help you get things started. Canva is one of my favorites. It has a variety of sizes and types for the different social media platforms out there. And Adobe Spark does come with a 2-month free trial, and then you may need to pay for a account there, but I find both of these equally helpful, and Canva is free the entire time. You can upgrade on any of these to get more access to different pictures or fonts in Canva, or have greater access to royalty-free pictures in Pixababy, and Flaticon. Flaticon is one of my favorite new finds because it allows me to create infographics very quickly with a variety of different icons, and they are very similar to the bathroom icon that we started with at the beginning. So I can tell stories about volunteering. I used it recently to describe all of the different equipment that a police officer needs to be fully equipped as we are looking at some budgetary issues. So there's a wide variety of ways that you can use these, and I encourage you to check them out. But one of the best resources for you and your club is your members. So all of us now have a very powerful camera right in our pocket. Your phone is becoming a more and more powerful camera every year, and with that, it's becoming simpler and simpler for us to capture a moment or a video on that and keep it with us. There was a craze a few years ago where every wedding seemed to have a disposable camera on the table, and that's because the couple wanted the guests to provide their view of the day's events. think of the ways you could capture that same sort of idea with the club members at your different programs and events, and all the different perspectives that you can get throughout that event. And then you can use these visuals on Adobe Canva to show what's happening right there in your community. People want to see themselves in your visuals. So if it is for an event and you have pictures from last year, use it and create the visual with that. It's one of the best ways to create engagement with your content, and it's a very low cost or free depending on the platform that you create it in. So encourage your members to take different pictures at all of the different events. If you have a photographer that is a member, that's even better. Try not to overutilize them, but if there's a big event that you need that professional photography for, ask them to help you. And it's always important to get permission. So you can be as passive as having a sign at the sign-up table that says that you're going to be taking pictures to use on social media in a press release or for future marketing. But it's always a good idea to talk to your club's legal representation to make sure that they have the language on those, either signs or waivers, wherever you put that, and make sure everybody is comfortable with that before you proceed. Okay, so we've talked about the basics of some of the design, and we've talked about some of the different ways that you can create it. Now what do you do with it? Practice. So we're going to look at a few different examples, both from my day job, but also clubs and districts across the organization, and some of the things that they've created there. So size really does matter, and learning the size for the different platforms. So Facebook, as you can see, has several different sizes for the images that you may be creating on the different pages that you work for. A page cover photo is a different size than an event cover photo, or it has been in the past. So if I'm looking at this, I'm seeing that they are now the same size, but that changes every year, and it's important for all of us to keep that information up to date. So if in doubt, Google the size that you need, or use one of the template programs for Canva or Adobe Spark to help get you started. If you are doing an image that you're going to share across multiple social media platforms, in email or other places, a square is a great sort of default size for you to use, and the Instagram 180 by 180 or 1080 by 1080 is a good sort of default to use, and one that we regularly sort of follow for many of our posts. So this is one of the examples from my day job, and this is for a recent farmers market opening that we announced at the end of May. As you guys can imagine, in this COVID-19 era, the farmers markets have had to adapt too. So we had a lot of people that were very interested in this, and we created both a Facebook event, and that is on the left side of the screen, and your timeline image that is both for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All of these were widely viewed by our citizens and shared by our citizens. So the Facebook event cover photo can be used on Facebook or Twitter in a regular timeline post, but it doesn't share as much information. And we know that people have very short attention spans on a lot of those social media platforms, so giving them something that they can give a quick look at and get a lot of information is a great way for us to make sure that people have all of the details that they need to know. So the square image has not only the farmers market is reopening, but it also has the time, the date, and in the post that we shared with this image, we provided details like it is a drive-through this year or at this time because of COVID-19, and there are particular routes that people need to travel to get in and travel around to see the different vendors. And then in the event where we have this Facebook event, we used more detail and shared a list of the vendors that would be coming to visit us and the different produce that they may have available to share during any given weekend. So when you're looking at all of these different things and the sizes and the way that they're formatted, find designs that you like and copy them. There's going to be designs all over the place for you to sort of build your idea book from. And I started this when I was in high school and I was the editor of our yearbook. I had an idea at that time, 3-ring binder, that I'd taken pictures out of magazines or newspapers where I really liked the way that they had put the content together, and then I would find ways to sort of emulate that in my designs for whatever I was working on. So here's a couple of designs, one that we created for our city and the other that was recently done by the CDC, that are very simple but impactful and a good place for us to start for future events or messages or anything along those lines. You can see that they also have very little text on them. It is important to note that some of our different social media platforms, if you plan to boost your post, have rules on how much of the visual can be made up of actual text. Facebook generally says 20%, which is a very small amount. About a fifth of your picture can be made up of text. So the CDC image on the left is a good example that could potentially be boosted if they so desired to get that out to more readers, visitors, etc. on the different social media platforms. So even if it isn't another Optimist group that you find a visual that you like, keep a copy of it. You can take a picture of it, use a screen capture, you can bookmark it, or Facebook even allows you to save posts. If you click on the 3 dots on the upper right-hand corner of a post, you can save it and catalog it. So I have multiple different sort of chapters or categories that I keep visuals in for Optimists or for work or for my kids. And that way I can come back to them at a later date. So that's a handy tool for you to have on Facebook. But you can also, even if you want to take a picture with your cell phone of a screen, it's not going to be as clean, but it'll still give you an idea to start with. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the details that you might want to have in the actual pieces themselves. This is a beautiful example from the Optimist Club of Waterloo North of a event graphic. Now this event size is not going to work on a Facebook event, but the details in here could easily be translated into that more rectangular size for that Facebook event cover photo. This does not have all of the details for that event. It doesn't say the time, it doesn't say the date, it just says that they're celebrating the youth and that they have more information on their website. So your event graphic can lead them to an event page that has those details. And what's really fun about Facebook events is you can then engage with people that RSVP or go to that event with more information. So if you're doing a park trot or a rubber ducky drop, you can sort of amp people up for that. You can give them running challenges or quizzes or questions in that Facebook event group to inspire them to really think about and look at that event in the future more. And then you can also share those onto your regular Facebook timeline to reach those people that may not have already registered for the event and may be considering it. So there's a lot of benefits to the events, and I'll let my peers who are talking a little bit more about engaging followers from the marketing committee in another presentation cover that. But keeping your event visuals simple is a really great way to limit how much space you're using and to get them to go to the actual event for more details. So a flyer or poster does not have that same ability to engage with people that your social media does. So it's going to have a little bit more of that who, what, when, where. So this is a toy drive from the Optimist Club of Ancaster, and it's something that they're doing at all of their events. So they have a food trailer, and anytime they're there, they will be either collecting toys or cash to do this toy drive. This is a great, simple example that uses negative space very effectively. So you see the toy drive at the top, and it's very clean and appealing. One thing to note is they also provide in multiple ways that people can get more information. They give their Facebook page, their Twitter account, and an email to get to them. If your club has a website, you can include it on there as well. So this should include more of that who, what, when, where, and occasionally why. But you don't have to provide all the information on the poster, much like you don't have to provide every little piece of detail on the event photo. Keeping it to those key points, the Mona Lisa smile, the key thing that you want people to pay attention to, and then go from there. So this is a great example. One thing is, make sure that you use the most recent logo, and we'll get into that next. So a couple years ago, the marketing committee reviewed and revised the Optimist International logo. And then OI also went through and created a full color, black, white, round, and other versions of the logo for every club and district in our organization. And every time a new club is added, the new logo is added to the website there. So I encourage you to go to the Optimist International website and find your club's new logo and make sure to use that on your materials. Not just your social media and your print materials, but also your shirts, hats, etc. There's also a quick reference guide here on the left that sort of simplifies the brand guidelines, which is a multiple page document on there that goes into very in-depth details about how to use the logo, when to use the logo, what colors to use with the logo, etc. But this is a very simplified version, and it's easy for all of us to understand. So it's got when to use the symbol, the logo type to use, the fonts that are suggested, the colors that are suggested to go with it, and you can then enter those into your Word, Canva, Adobe Spark, and go from there. And what I have done with my Canva is I have a white file for the Optimist International logo that I use on most of my graphics. And I just basically start from the same graphic every time and change my picture in the background, my font in the background. But that way I make sure that I'm using the correct font, and I know that it's always going to work that way. So this is a great example of color, negative space, a great sort of engaging image. And this is a poster that was created by the Palmetto Optimist Club. Bonnie Jean is a tremendous asset in the Optimist International Marketing Facebook group and regularly shares ideas with all of us. This is a good example of using the logo sort of in a very prevalent space. But one thing that I do want to take a minute and talk to all of you about is please don't modify the logo. As a designer and brand manager, please keep the logo where it is, keep the logo how it was created by the OI team. A lot of thought goes into the creation of these images and the colors that are used with them. So it may be fun to add a background behind the logo, but if it makes it hard to read, people aren't going to be as easily able to identify it. And if we change the logo every year, it makes it harder for people to recognize who we are. And that's one thing that the logo is doing. It's helping us brand as not only your club, the district, but also the organization. And we want people that see a event in Sumter, South Carolina, or Canada, or Africa, or Nepal to recognize Optimist International and know, oh, that's the group that works with kids and helps bring out the best in their communities. And the brand is one of the best ways to do that. So keeping the brand within the brand guidelines and that one-pager that was on the previous slide is really important. And because we do have hundreds of clubs across the globe, it's really hard for us to manage the brand like I do with the City of Independence. So we need your help. please don't modify that brand. As much fun as it is to see that different logo every year, keeping it the same logo is going to help make sure that we are able to identify and be recognized in our community. So people recognize, as I mentioned earlier, the Nike swoosh. They know the Amazon smile and the golden arches of McDonald's. We're never going to have that same level of recognition or acceptance out there, but we can come close the more we use this in all of our different clubs. So please help us with the brand and keeping it recognizable. So the final thing that I really want to talk to you guys about is have fun. I am constantly learning new things, playing with new designs, and looking at different ways that programs can create visuals for the different platforms that I am on. And I've never, and I will never be done learning about all these different things. There could be a new social media platform being developed in someone's basement right now that none of us have been able to see yet, and it's important for us to sort of keep on our toes about that. And while it is important to mention TikTok, TikTok is a video platform that we haven't really covered here, and while I spend hours on it probably every week laughing at the videos, it's not necessarily most effective for us to use as our organization right now. But if you do have some time, it is fun to play with on your own and just to learn sort of what people are talking about. So here in the final bit, I do want to say that the Optimist International Marketing Group Facebook group is a very good resource for all of you, and I would encourage you to look to that page on a regular basis. These are some of the graphics that have been shared there by our different team members that have been developed across the country, and we encourage you to share those different visuals and graphics there as well. So if you're not already a member, please search for us on Facebook and ask to join. It's a great way to share ideas and to learn new tricks. There's new resources there on a regular basis. And I know a lot of you are saying, I'm too old, too young, too busy to learn new ways to create visuals or share things about my club, district, or Optimist International in general. And I really do hope that today you've seen some of the basics of how to create those visuals, how to utilize those free tools out there to create them, and has inspired you to play around. That is the best way to learn, is just to play. So take pictures of your club members, the kiddos in the backyard, the grandkids, and play with the different ways that you can share a message, be it an event like the food drive, a quote like the Be an Optimist 2020, or even just a message like the Coming Together While Staying Apart in the left-hand corner. There's a variety of ways that visuals can help us tell our story, but all of them are going to create more engagement with us as an organization. So if you have any questions for us, you can email me at megmlewis@outlook.com, or I really think the Facebook group is one of the best ways to get a hold of all of us, and not only me as the chair, but future chairs and members of the organization around the globe are all participating on that platform. So this was a new way for me to present. I hope that you can bear with me throughout all of this. It's a little bit unique not having people ask questions as you're talking to them during a PowerPoint presentation, but we're looking forward to hearing all of your questions, ideas, and learning from each other. So here's to some great visuals telling the story of Optimist.